guys, it's me, Gigi, and we're here at the Ignite Studios in Belize City. We got the chance today to sit down with renowned therapist Mrs. Krista Courtney. Mrs. Courtney has a master's degree from the University of South Florida in mental health and rehabilitation counseling. Today we touch topics that are close to the heart, being that we're still in the month of love, and that includes effective communication, to the importance of self-love and personal growth in a relationship, as well as the negative and positive impact of social media on modern relationships. And we also spoke a little bit about the myths and misconceptions that surround couples therapy. Before we get into this special episode of Relationships, a Work in Progress, I want you guys to do something for me. And I always get what I want. So what you're gonna do is hit like, give it a heart, and also follow Ignite Belize on Facebook and on Instagram so you don't miss out on any of the wonderful content that we're going to be putting up. With me here, I have who will be our beacon of wisdom and enlightenment, Mrs. Krista Courtney.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. No pressure. I'll try to be very bright and beaconish today. As you mentioned, I'm Krista Courtney. I'm here with you, Ignite, today from Monarch Counseling and Consulting, which is a group mental health practice. We work with kids all the way up to the elderly and especially couples.
And couples are our target today. Can you explain how effective communication impacts a healthy relationship?
Sure. Like you mentioned, if we focus first on effective communication, I think it's important to mention that this speaker, whoever the speaker is, generally has the responsibility of doing the best that they can using all their tools to make sure that the message is received in the same way that they intend for it to be received. And so a lot of times people talk, but they're not being careful and they're not being intentional about what it is that they're trying to say. So we get emotional, we fly off the handle, and we say a bunch of stuff that sometimes we don't mean. We afterwards realize that it affected our partner in a negative way, or that they, it hurt or injured or ruptured the connection. And then we try to backtrack. Well, I didn't mean it like that. But in that moment, once the rupture has occurred, it's really important that we learn how to repair that. And the more you do that, the easier it is to not have as many ruptures in communication. So if I'm the speaker, I have to consider who my audience is, which is why when people are getting to know each other, they share information about their history, certain experiences that they've had, things that they're sensitive to, things they like, things they don't like. It's a way that early on in relationships, we're trying to literally feed the other person information so that they can be successful in their interactions with us and understand us. We want to feel heard. We want to feel seen and important, cherished by the other person. And a lot of that information really is transferred early on. So it means that I have to consider the person receiving it, not just saying how I feel or I just need to get this off my chest, right? It's also taking some care and learning some tools about how to bring that message across.
In that initial talking stage or sharing stage in the beginning of the relationship, when you feel like you're innocently sharing something from your past relationships or some things from within yourself, like, okay, so this is the way I am, this is how I handle certain situations, like, oh, people say I have a bad temper, blah, blah, blah.
Again, as you're getting to know people early on in relationships, you're going to see things that people call red flags, for instance, right? So if somebody says, oh, in my past relationships, they tell me I have a bad temper, that is a red flag, right? Because if I've been told that, it means that it's something I need to maybe look into, address, work on. But some people say, well, that's just me, and it
never change.
Yeah, like
accept
take it or leave it. Like, and that is very important, because on the one hand, it's right and it's wrong. In a way, it's both helpful and unhelpful. In one way, it's helpful in that if you can believe people when they say this is who I am and I'm not gonna change, like Sometimes we say, oh, well, if we love each other enough, or if I'm good enough,
Love
then maybe
conquers
they'll
all.
change. Yes, exactly. It in those romantic and big gesture ways, love does conquer all. But that doesn't mean that we can stay in a relationship together.
Okay, so I guess in a nutshell, what Mrs. Courtney is trying to say is like, don't be Delulu. Delulu is not the solution.
No, Delulu is not the solution. But sometimes people are so caught up in trying to be in a relationship that they don't remember that they have choices.
Okay.
And they're not necessarily prepared to walk away
Okay.
if they see things that are red flags. So communication helps you to figure those things out. But it's also my own personal approach that I have to be willing to see what I'm seeing and take that very realistically, ask further, investigate, not just latch on in an intense moment of passion very early, but not use the communication tools to really get to know someone.
First and foremost, you have to build the relationship with yourself so you can a healthy relationship with yourself so you can build that healthy relationship with someone else. And
right.
That brings us into the second topic of individual growth and self-love. I believe that to love someone properly, you first have to love yourself. And there's this saying, oh, you find your other half, or like in Spanish, mi media naranja, the other half of my orange. I don't really subscribe to that line of thinking. I like to think that you want to meet someone who is whole in their own sense, and you're whole. You have a sense of wholeness within yourself, right? So I'd like you to explain how personal growth and individuality and self-love impacts the relationship's dynamics.
But when it comes to how well you take care of yourself impacting your relationship, the answer is 100%. And that is just like a constant throughout the relationship. Like, we are a living thing. We're a living organism. Things have happened to us throughout our lives. Things continue to happen to us, both individually and happen to us in the sense of a couple or a family. And so it's a constant thing to be aware of, in that your needs actually change as well. So when we're single and we don't have children or not a lot of responsibilities sometimes early on in a relationship. Yeah, just a couple, just two of you. There may be things that come very, very easy. Like date nights, watching a movie together, like that natural sort of day-to-day intimacy, just passing each other in the house, or a little touch here or there, kiss when you come home, and how you greet each other. There's a little more headspace, mental space to consider the other person, maybe drop off lunch every now and then just to show you care, or whatever it is that the other person receives. But as you grow, sometimes as a family, maybe if people are business owners or have a lot of responsibility, sometimes people don't know how to stop and assess how the needs of the unit have changed. And so we keep trying to kind of push things the same way that they were, instead of allowing the relationship and how we share intimacy, how we do date nights, sometimes needs to morph and change and grow with the relationship. Sometimes people get really stuck in this idea of romance, and it's supposed to feel like a movie every day. And so 5 years in, I'm feeling a little bored. This must not be it. And really, there may be things to pay attention to, but there's a lot more that could be addressed before you're willing to call it quits, just because the romance has kind of dulled a little bit.
What about your own individual growth within the relationship? Sometimes what happens is that you two become one, literally, and it's like they're joined at the hip, everything they do together. And while that may work, I've seen that work for some couples, like they eat out of the same plate, they drink out of the same cup, and while that's cute, that's not the cup of tea for everyone. And some people still want to maintain their sense of individuality. It's like, okay, I can be here doing my own thing, and you can literally be over on the other side, but as long as I have this space that is mine and you're not talking to me, I know you're there, your presence is there, but I just want to feel like I'm alone. And sometimes that might cause problems in the relationships because one person, they still want to engage in their own hobbies, they want to hang out with their own friends, not necessarily mutual friends, like their own friends. How do you go about navigating that situation when the other person might not want that, or you both parties don't know how to do that?
Here's the thing, we're all different. We all come with a different level of we have beliefs, we have values, we have expectations that are shaped by a collection of experiences, both good and bad, both healthy and unhealthy. And so when we talk about self-love and growth, personal growth, benefiting a relationship, it's that sometimes we have ideas about what this is supposed to be, and we're not as connected to what we really, really want and how to communicate that. And honestly, if me needing alone time or time with my friends separate from my partner is an issue for my partner, the question is it a deal breaker? So if it's something that makes me uncomfortable, yeah, we can talk about it. But at the end of the day, I don't need you to understand sometimes. Sometimes I just need you to allow it.
But I don't like that word allow. I was going to raise that, like when I hear people like sometimes like when you're out with your friends, oh, my boyfriend allow me for make I go to my girlfriend.
Well, that's it.
Like, no, what do you mean allow it to your dad?
No,
and I'm
no.
like, so I like to use the word encourage.
Or
Not even
encourage,
tolerate.
yeah. But I'm saying you mentioned that it's a problem for me.
Okay.
That you spend time with your friends. Now you're hoping that you will kind of vet out somebody that would have a problem with that. Like, I don't want to be with somebody who has a problem, like fundamentally with me having individual time or spending time with my friends or even with my family or doing something on my own separately. So a lot of times couples get together and they're like, oh my God, she's so vibrant. She's so this, he's so this is great, blah, blah, blah. And then you start to slowly, as most new couples do, spend an exorbitant amount of time together, isolated from friends, not even couples friends, like you just all up into each other in the beginning, exactly, in a bubble. And then this person starts to look a little more dull, not as exciting, not as interesting as when we first met. But you realize that exposure to the things that make this person tick, people that add to their lives, you start to slowly, it does change a bit, but sometimes it's a bit extreme.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, okay, I just need a minute. And now we need to back off. Oh, but you need space. Why do you need space?
Yeah, because
or both of us need space.
Those same activities that they engaged in before is what contributed to that personality that was so attractive to you. And what I noticed is that the very qualities that attracted you to the person, you end up like stifling them because you're holding them so tightly to you and they don't have time to explore all of the activities that they want.
Now we're speaking very, very general here, and how this is displayed in each relationship is going to show up a little bit different, if it is that this is even an issue. A healthy relationship is when we are together because we like each other and we want each other in our lives, not because I cannot live without you. If I cannot live without you, I am an infant. I am unable to meet my own needs. I'm unable to understand my own needs, and I need someone else to do that for me. Right? So the idea of abandonment, for instance, is that without you, I die. And that really only applies to a child. So if you're feeling that way emotionally in a relationship, that I will die without this person, like I cannot live without this person, it is a signal of like emotional immaturity and maybe a clinginess that comes from somewhere. And it's a good idea to explore that. But the healthier position to be in is that I can live without you. I might not want to,
which is different.
I don't look forward to that. I'm not like fine either way. But the idea is that I want to be with you, that you add something to my life, but not something that I can't live without.